Hey everyone, Cinephile Mike here, and it is day 57 of Oscar Rewind, my bi-weekly series of videos where I revisit the films that reflect the work of this past year's Oscar nominees and winners. As always, I'll be discussing the awards history for the film, the box office information, the critical and audience response, and as always, these reviews are spoiler-free. You can find older episodes here on the YouTube channel or on my website, cinephilemike.com. We are only a couple of months away from award season, so you know what that means. There was 95 in 95 days, 96 in 96, and this year you will be getting 97 in 97. Please, as we get into this, remember if you like what you heard here, or go ahead, do it now. You know you want to. Hit that subscribe button, click that like button. Feel free to throw in a comment and join in on the conversation. So, today for day 57, I'm talking about a film that debuted at the Edinburgh International Film Festival 15 years ago in 2009. And it's been over a month and I'm still kind of on a high from having gotten to go and enjoy that festival. There's just so many incredible films that premiered there that I was happy to revisit another one that premiered there. So we're going to see how it stacks up. Today, I am talking about Thunderbird releasing's Mad, Sad, and Bad. Written and directed by Avie Luthra, after the festival, the film had a very, I guess I could say, short, I'm assuming, release, and solely overseas in the UK in the summer of 2009. The reason for this assumption, I'm hoping it wasn't long because according to Box Office Mojo, this film was not really a financial success. As a result of the UK release, the film only made $4,507, which is what accounts for the entire worldwide take. And the film critically did not land as well. As per our usual source, Rotten Tomatoes, it sits with a 29% critical rating based on 14 reviews and a 31% on the popcorn meter, which is the new name for the audience score. So, from over 50 ratings by the public or the popcorn meter, this film sits with that 31 from 50 ratings. So, not a strong box office success, not well received critically. Where do I fall? Well, let's take a look at it. Why is this little British indie on Rewind this season? Not for one of the performers, not for the writer, not the director, but for the sound. Yes, and a man by the name of Tarn Willers. For the true pundits out there, if you hear that name, you probably remember, yes, he was half of the winning team that won the Oscar for Best Sound for the rather disturbing sound in Best International Feature Film, winning the winning film, The Zone of Interest. Willers, along with Johnny Byrne, who I talked about earlier this season when I discussed Jonathan Glazer's Birth, they won the Oscar. And for Willers, this was interesting because this was his first nomination, and he won, in a career that has spanned over 23 years. And in that career, according to IMDb, the work that he did on Zone of Interest was the only thing that led to wins or nominations. So there are 5 wins and 7 nominations for his work on Zone of Interest, but none of the other films in the repertoire. So I'm curious to see how we will continue to see the results come as his work continues. So Mad, Sad, and Bad marked his third production sound mixer credit, the job that he won the Oscar for. That was his job on Zone of Interest. I tried to track down the first 2 films, but I was not able to get them. And plus, like I said, I was happy to see that one of the films was part of the EIFF. So here it is. And as for the film's award journey, the EIFF is where it ends. The film's sole nomination, according to IMDb, was that it was nominated for the Michael Powell Award for Best British Feature Film. No other awards recognition, just the sole nomination from the Edinburgh Film Festival. But as always, as is the custom of our people, we are not here for the awards. We're not here for the ratings. We are here for the films and to make our own decisions. Mad, Sad, and Bad opens on the funeral of Usha, played by Lena Dingra. A widow, she is the matriarch of her family, which includes her 3 adult children: Rashmi, a still living at home with her mother, spinster librarian, played by Mira Sayal; Atul, in his words, a sitcom writer, sitcom writer, I tried to cover that there. I try to be expletive free. Played by Nitin Ganatra, who is having difficulty in his relationship with artist Julia, played by former Oscar nominee Andrea Riseborough. And finally, the quasi success story of the film, Hardeep, the arrogant and overly inappropriate and unmarried therapist, played by Zubin Varla. Now, in voiceover at the start, we hear Usha reference that her children always agreed that she was attractive. And then we are going to jump back several weeks to see how we ended up here. So, right from the jump, this is meant to be a light comedy a la somewhere attempting in the vein of like a death at the funeral or something lighthearted, especially when we see some of the earlier scenes. But while they are trying to maybe shoot a family friendly film, this family is anything but friendly. When they aren't throwing shade at one another in person, they are talking about one another behind their backs. Now, as is the stereotype of certain families and cultures, Usha has no rush to marry off her sons. They are going to find their paths and get married and have children. But she is very frustrated with her daughter, who is still living at home at her age, which differs from Usha because when Usha was Rashmi's age, she was already married, had a home, and had the three children. And it's not that Rashmi doesn't want to get married, but she seems to want more than just to settle for the first man who will take her. And as we see, she has a little bit more going on. So, is she the bad sibling, the sad sibling, or the bad sibling? This is a question you may be wondering since there's three siblings and three in the title. What about the other two? Atul? I mean, he means well. He writes his sitcom, which is a loose adaptation of his sister's life living with their domineering mother, and he does care for his girlfriend. But a chance encounter with a former crush, Roxy, played by Aisha Darker, who is married to Atul's friend Graham, and Undertaker, played by Tony Gardner. He spends his time talking about this to his brother Hardeep, the sex crazed therapist who has no qualms crossing the line, which makes things a little uncomfortable with some of his patients. But hey, if he sees an open door, he will walk through it. So is Atul or Hardeep? Which one of them is the mad one, the sad one, or the bad one? And as we follow the exploits of these three siblings, leading up to the ending of the film where we are at Usha's funeral, we do go along for a few attempts at laughter for the bulk of the first two-thirds of the film. I have my own views on who the mad one, who the sad one, and who the bad one is. I will let you make that determination once you've seen the film, should you choose to watch it. Okay, the attempts for comedy are there. This film wants to be a social commentary on British Indian families of the UK, but unfortunately, there's not enough to latch onto. Writer director Luthra creates characters that would have almost been better served in a mini series or a sitcom instead of a rushed hour and 27-minute film, which is what the film starts out as. There's not enough time to flesh out each of these siblings, and we don't even really get to see much time where the three of them come together, save the scene. And then while things are, comedic for the whole, oh, I recognize this in my family, when we see some of the other factors that come into play, there's a very I don't want to spoil too much. There's a very dark turn that this film goes in the third act, which attempts to, tackle some very serious issues. And unfortunately, these issues are handled a little loose and so quick, and some cases almost in a joke that it diminishes what Luther may have been trying to get across. And, any attempt you had to engage with the story is gone as a result of this shift. It's almost like we were making one film and then someone stepped in and did something else. Now, the performers, the actors, they're fine, but again, because of so much of what they're trying to do within their lives, we don't really get enough to really give them standout moments. So, a lot of the dialogue, I mean, unfortunately, this film may get trapped as just another little indie film that doesn't necessarily tend to have much of a following unless it's one that you dig out. I mean, of the core three, the one who stands out the most is Ganatra as the sitcom writer, but that perhaps could be because they try to weave these webs. Luther brings all these characters together in certain ways, and Ganatra is kind of like the nucleus in many ways of what branches. So that could be why he's the one that stands out. Some of the other talent, like Riseborough, unfortunately, is wasted. She doesn't have too much to explore. And, you know, I said it, I'm repeating. It's a sitcom setup that then goes into a dark drama at the end and doesn't quite know how to handle it. So, even when we get to the resolution of the film, it kind of feels a little unearned. So, yeah, look, the one thing I do want to talk about, I would be remiss. Let me talk about Willers. So, as the production sound mixer on this film, I mean, I could say that it sounded fine. Every sound I heard sounded real. Nothing was like, what did I hear? So, solid work. This is not a stylized film in the same vein as The Zone of Interest. So, I can't really criticize the work that he did on this. My criticism's obviously falling in other parts. So, look, in all, Mad, Sad, and Bad for me is a two-star film. A lot of potential. And, I'd be curious to see if Luther has other films, but with this one, he didn't seem to want to commit to the tone he wanted. However, I'd be curious to know what you think. So if you would like to catch Mad, Sad, and Bad, it is streaming for free on Tubi with ads. So there you have it. As always, if you like what you heard here, again, please subscribe to the channel, click that like button, tell someone about the channel. There's so much great information coming. We're about to get into award season. It's going to be great. Happy watching, everyone. And until next time, this is Cinephile Mike saying take a break and watch something new.